pin drop silence. Someone so right and so the look of sheer terror and disgust was well worth the pain of eating vanilla pudding. I'm a chocolate kind of gal. And then Grumblefish replies, one of my friends let me know he was going to pull this prank, so I helped him fill a jar with pudding. Then I swapped his jar of mayo pudding with a regular jar of mayo. Our next reply is from Orchid Lighthouse. When my brother and I were in middle school, my brother liked to skateboard with a next door neighbor. One day, my brother and the neighbor took a sheet of plywood from under my brother's upper bunk bed. No one slept in the upper bunk. Out of the house and started making a skateboard ramp out of it in the neighbor's adjacent yard. My parents had explicitly told him that he wasn't allowed to do that. Now, in my defense, my brother teased me unmercifully with little tears on multiple occasions. So he was not doing anything for a long time. Anyway, I had a plane action. I went to the upstairs window and yelled down at them, brother, guess what? Mom knows everything and she's so mad. Then I slammed the window shut and ran to the stairs and waited while watching my mom reach me. A few moments later, my brother walks in the front door looking worried and says, Mom, I'm so sorry. My mom, who had no idea what was going on, said, for what? While slowly putting the newspaper down. For making a skateboard ramp out of the wood from the bunk bed? You did what? At that moment, a wave of shock and realization swept across my brother's face, and our eyes met. I let out the biggest, evilest little sister cackle and ran into my room. We're adults now, and I my parents worked night when I was in middle school, and I stayed at my friend's house while my parents were at work. This friend loved to torment me. One day, his 13-year-old brain thought it'd be funny to pee off the deck onto the feral cats in the yard below. I told him I was going to tell his mother, went inside and told her, when Trevor walks in, just act disgusted. He walked in. She told him how disappointed she was in him, having no idea what he did. To which he replied, I swear to God, Mom, he's lying. I didn't piss on those cats. Watching his face as he realized I told her nothing, and he just told on himself, was one of the highlights of my youth. Our next reply is from Rainbow Dick. The AM supervisor at my office is a short little man who likes to work from a laptop on a rolling adjustable desk. For over a year, I gradually raised the height on his desk and watched as he went from sitting on a stool to an adjustable tall task chair to standing. Last week, he removed the wheels from the desk to lower the height. He doesn't realize it's adjustable. There's no sparkle sharp across the left. In high school, I knew a guy who had one of those locks for his locker that just goes in 4 directions, not numbers. One day, I was zoned out and happened to see him put his combination in. I wrote it down immediately. Didn't have a plan, just knew it was too good of an opportunity to miss. I noticed the locker next to his was empty. The next day after class, I waited until he went home. I took everything in his locker and moved it exactly 1 locker over. All his friends said he was crazy since nothing was stolen. Everything was exactly the same place as him. The fact that he had written down his locker contributed to a mistake in my life. So let's say I moved his locker 5 lockers. That was a fun meltdown to watch. That was r/Ask Reddit, and my Ask Reddit question for you is, did you remember to like and subscribe? If you haven't, why not? Dear Reddit, when you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps or poorly chosen words you did or said years earlier, and then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? So, I'll share my story. Back in 2nd grade, one of my close
By the way, I own nothing of what I am hearing right now.
And I remember one day I was
which is probably pretty obvious, seeing as how that
and in my
one
moronic
thing playing didn't have my voice.
He's my friend. I like my friend. I don't want to sneeze on my friend. I should sneeze in the opposite direction. So I turn my head to my right and and sneeze all over the girl sitting right next to me. So I don't know why I didn't sneeze in my head. Towards my left because no, and the worst possible that's my emotion. So, what is your most embarrassing moment in 7th grade? People actually I said, my mom won't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. He said, you have to I accidentally mixed up an inside joke with the wrong friend group with disastrous results. Friend group number 1. The joke was when someone called and asked who I was there, we would add Daryl to list of names. Daryl wasn't a real person. The joke wasn't really funny and made no sense out of context. But I guess that's why it was an inside joke. Friend group number 2. I was hanging out playing some drinking games with a bunch of people that I hadn't hung out with in a while. It was kind of a get-together to remember a friend that they had who had recently died in a car accident. I didn't know him that well, but I was always down to party. Anyway, the phone rang, and the person who answered started listing off names. Sorting my cards for another round of presidents and buttholes, I offhandedly said, Heh, and Daryl. It was the typical record scratch moment where everyone stopped, and this happened in 2002, and I still think about it all the time. Then, we have a similar inside joke story down below. Oh man, I have a mixed up inside joke scenario. It wasn't me, it was my neighbor. My neighbor is morbidly obese, and my mom is Korean, and they joke with each other about it. My neighbor makes racist comments to my mom, she makes fun of my neighbor's weight. It's just
I don't want
in public too, but it was always
purity weapon, but I need it to be legendary.
Even without with her husband, they're both white. She was at a checkout counter when she politely remarked about all the dang Koreans taking over the region. The checkout lady just stares at her. Then the husband leaned over and said, "It's not as funny when OP's mom isn't funny." Cue the horrified neighbor desperately trying to explain that she wasn't a racist, that this is inside joke, it's my favorite scene, which, of course, just made her mad. And my mom lost it when she heard it say. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher said a joke in front of the class and everyone laughed, including myself. After that down, a girl looked up at me and said, "You have a really big disgusting laugh, ew." I became so self-conscious about laughter since that specific day, and after years, I have trouble actually laughing. My brain kind of made it a habit to just smile or slightly chuckle at something, even if it's really funny. OP, on this channel, I have a policy against cursing. That being said, that girl sounds like a total bitch. I went through a phase where I scolded people for reading Harry Potter because my parents told me it was evil. Lots of awkward situations because of that. Junior prom, I wrote about during dinner to my date. I'm so bored. And I had no idea why it came out of my mouth. I am pretty well mannered and quiet. I forget how I tried to play it off, but I felt so bad. You think that's bad? Sweet cup and cakes has got you beat. I was sitting in a small group of friends in school, and my crush, literally the love of my life at that point, it was the happiest moment of my entire life. So naturally, I said, "Ew," in front of everyone. This was sick though, married to said girl. Well, the joke's on him, Mayor Scotch. Now he's the one who got me. For most of my education, I was public school, and like most kids, I always wished that. For high school, I received an academic scholarship for private Catholic school. It was a really big deal for my family. I didn't know anyone at the new school. Between an odd combination of academics, I became very popular. I wasn't used to the attention, and it definitely got to my teenage years. Nearly all of my social circles became around the new school. She just lit up when she saw me. She was so excited. I just ignored her. I pretended I didn't recognize her. She looked so deflated when I didn't acknowledge her. No, this was in the 90s. My family moved a few times after that. I settled down in a different part of the country after university. I never made it back to that town. I've relived that butthole moment for years now. Fast forward to one of those nights when I relived that moment, and I decided to look her up on Facebook to apologize. I found out she died 10 years ago in an auto accident. Since I found out her fate, I feel even more awful about that moment. See, this is why it's always a good idea to be nice to people. You never know when someone's gonna die randomly, and then you're gonna stop being a butthole for the rest of your life. When I was 11, it was my first day at a new school, and all the other students were also new. The math teacher started our first class by asking each of us about our education background, what school we came from, what they taught us in our last year's math class, etc. Just trying to get a general idea of what kind of students he was dealing with. Thing is, I was so nervous that I spaced out for a bit and got lost in my overthinking mind. So I didn't hear the teacher's questions to my classmates. When it got to my turn, the teacher just said, "Now, tell me about you," assuming I understood what kind of information he was expecting. I just went straight with an confused look on their faces. And as soon as I realized the teacher was also completely lost, I stopped talking and went instantly real. The teacher then said, "That's all really great, but I was only interested in what happened last year, not in the last 10, and everyone started laughing. The next day, nobody remembered it anymore, but 12 years later, it still comes to mind in pretty random moments. Well, good news, OP. Now your most embarrassing moment has been immortalized on a YouTube video. Freshman year of high school. It was one of those days before school starts, and you meet your teacher and your parents are there. My teacher was handing me a piece of paper, and I didn't see the paper, so I shook his hand. He said, "Oh," and my mom said, and I panicked and said, "I just wanted to be polite." So I still want to die when I think of that. Bruh, I can't even begin to pinpoint one event. I guess one thing is when I was 11, I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom 3 times during class, and told me no. And, well, sure enough, I couldn't hold it any longer. And there's bullying for the next. Literally shakes me in bed about how I've never felt that low before. Somehow, I managed to live through it though, so we all got flaws. Mine is a bladder that urinates prematurely. OMFG, this gave me flashbacks all the way to first grade. I was the quietest child. I listened intently. I never strayed from my teacher. Well, one day in music class, I had to piss while we were all still singing. I figured, I'll hold it, it'll be okay. I couldn't. It got bad, fast. It took up so much courage, but I finally raised my hand. The teacher called on me, and I said in the most sheepish voice, "Can I please go to the bathroom?" She said no. I decided I'd try to hold it out longer. My parents told me to tell someone when it was an emergency should I be in that situation though. Finally, I was about ready to burst. I raised my hand again. I was doing that piss dance kids do. I say with so much desperation, "Please, teacher, it's an emergency. I need to go." She says, "No, there's only 10 minutes left. You can wait." Pissed myself 2 seconds later. I didn't know it back then, but I see how I was treated by that teacher now. I was 7. I needed to...
Yo, excuse me. You do see him doing the dance, right? That dance says, "I need to go right now or there's going to be an awful mess." You're fucking grown up, you should know that. Even if you didn't help me grow up. Literally, ignoramus. Come on, kiss my ass.
The P. I was visiting Portland for a wedding that lined up with my birthday as well. We went out to celebrate and finished the night at a karaoke bar. Realizing I'm too drunk to sing, I picked My Name is Eminem as my song to perform. There's two versions of that song. One is the original release, the other tamed down, which you mostly hear today. The woman controlling the music put on the original, and off I went. One of the lines at the end is, running over lesbians in a spaceship while they screaming at me, let's just be friends. I finished the song, and I'm met by applause from my friends and one other table. The rest of the place is silent. The DJ goes, nice job. Don't know if it was the best choice for a gay women's night though. And at that moment, I wanted to leave my skin. I was in 4th grade, and it was Valentine's Day. I was the new kid in school, and this one boy had been picking on me all year. My 10-year-old self was very non-confrontational, so I wrote a paragraph on the back of his nerd's Valentine explaining that I don't like it when he's mean to me, and I don't understand why he has to be. He couldn't read my handwriting and brought it to the teacher, who made me read it aloud to both of them. I think about that every day of my life. He even ended up finding me online and contacting me to apologize a few years ago, but all I can think of is the cringe. OP, you lie awake thinking about this moment, but it sounds like the bully was also lying awake thinking about this moment. Kind of poetic, actually. When I was in the 4th grade, I lived in the middle of nowhere and there was practically no minorities. Just white county people. This Mexican family had just moved in and could barely speak any English, and I befriended one of the kids my age in school. He came over to my place, and we were both joking around about his bad English. Just doing what kids do. I would pretend to speak with his accent, and then he would copy mine, and it was silly, stupid, and innocent. My mom told me I was being really inconsiderate, and how uncool it was to make fun of someone for not being able to speak English. I felt terrible. The next day at school, my friend came up to me and started joking with me again, but I just shook my head and I'm that young and dumb to be able to explain my behavior to him. As I grew older, I spent probably 20 years thinking about that day and how much of a turd I was to be friendly one day and then without explaining anything, just stop talking to him out of embarrassment. I felt really bad about it for a long time and often laid awake at night thinking about it. I ended up finding him on Facebook about a year ago. And we friended each other, so I told him how bad I felt about it and apologized. He just laughed it off and said it was no big deal, and he was still really thankful to find someone as friendly as me when he didn't know anyone here. He said he figured my mom had said something to me about it, and it never bothered him. I don't know if maybe he was just being nice to me or not, but it was such a relief to hear it. It really felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. Well, I'm glad at least one of these stories has a happy ending. This happened back when I was in 6th or 7th grade. Me and a couple of friends were browsing the neighborhood our school was in after the school day was over. We happened on a bus stop with a couple of girls seemingly our age. We stopped and tried to chat them up, but their bus came soon after and they had to go. We see their bus stop at a traffic light not 20 meters away and one of us says, let's run to the next stop. Nobody thought to ask, then what? And off we were, sprinting madly behind the bus. Surprisingly enough, we somehow made it to the next stop just as the bus was arriving. Then the doors opened, the girls sat there giggling, and we did nothing. Literally. I even remember it like the bus driver held the doors a bit longer, but I might be imagining it as the memory is so old. We just sat there trying to catch our breaths as my lungs burned. And then the doors closed and the bus went off to the next stop, and none of us said anything. We just walked it off, went on to the next stupid thing we would do. I don't know about any of the other guys, but this still haunts me as one of the cringiest moments of my life so far. In 7th grade, 2006 for me, I had just started watching more anime on Toonami and was really into it. One day, we had to do a paper describing ourselves coming back from summer break, and the class had to put a person to the description. I named my favorite jacket that I wore every day Takeshi for F knows why. And the cutest new girl in class